Hello, and thank you everyone for attending our webinar, Baking a Cookieless Advertising Strategy. Contextual targeting is the secret ingredient. My name is Amanda Benavides, and I'm part of the marketing team here at StackAdapt. Today's webinar will be presented by my wonderful colleague, Lauren Rose. She's an account executive at StackAdapt. Before we get started, we just have a few housekeeping items to cover, and then we will get the webinar underway. We're happy to field any questions you might have on any of the content. Please feel free to place them in the questions area of the GoToWebinar panel, and we will address them at the end during the Q&A. If there are any questions we're not able to address in the allotted time, we will follow up directly after the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared shortly after we end. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Lauren to introduce herself. Lauren?
Thanks so much, Amanda. So yeah, just to reiterate, my name is Lauren Rose. I'm an account executive here at StackAdapt, and I've been here for a little over 2 years. So again, really appreciate everyone hopping on today's webinar. Let's get started. So firstly, just to take you through a brief agenda of what we'll be covering in today's webinar. Firstly, we're going to look at the digital advertising landscape as a whole, followed by what is contextual advertising, kind of defining that a little further. We'll then explore how we recommend baking contextual ads into your overall digital media strategy. And then at the end, we'll kind of wrap everything up and follow up with Q&A at the very end. So jumping into it, digital marketing is constantly evolving, and consumers expect a lot from brands today. In order to stay ahead of the curve, marketers need to find innovative campaign strategies. Marketing teams that are able to effectively target their audience, optimize content delivery, and offer personalization at scale usually are highly successful with their campaigns. Apart from relying on cookie-based targeting methods to reach your intended audience, there are alternative targeting tactics that don't rely on user-based identifiers. And this is where contextual advertising plays a highly relevant and applicable role. It allows marketers to target their audience using economies of scale while still containing highly relevant messaging used in context. So what is contextual advertising? Contextual advertising is a new way of reaching your target audience without the use of cookies and in a way that is still scalable. Instead of targeting based on user behavior, contextual advertising, on the other hand, targets based on the environment in which the ad is serving. This targeting strategy uses algorithms to target advertising placements based on site content, keywords, and other data. This allows brands to show ads to users based on the content they're consuming at that particular moment in time. Its primary purpose is to serve relevant ads to the user in real time based on the context of the web page itself, rather than through the use of browsing behavior or information about the user. Once collected, the data is then stored in a data management platform, or a DMP, or in a DSP, or a demand-side platform like StackAdapt. Some of the data will include information about page visits, clicks on ads, or time spent with particular content. This data is then analyzed and used to create audiences that we can target and that represent the user's shopping and search habits. So for example, if a user has been clicking on ads for yoga classes, then it can be established that that user is interested in said classes. So now, on the contrary, as opposed to targeting ads based on users' browsing behavior, contextual advertising targets based on the environment in which the ad appears. This targeting method uses algorithms to target ad placements based on keywords, website content, and other data. This way, ads are shown to users based on the content they're actively consuming at that moment in time. So say, for example, you're browsing a website that talks all about the perfect way to grind your full-bodied Arabica beans. The page talks about how to select the perfect bean and what to look for in profiles, from flavor and aroma, sweetness, and acidity. So as you browse the page, instead of seeing an ad for a new fall jacket that you may have been looking for, with contextual advertising, You're instead served with ads related to coffee, since the page you're reading dives deep into different types of coffee beans. In this instance, with contextual advertising, you could be served with an ad for the perfect burr grinder and how it enhances the flavor of the same coffee bean that you're researching on that page that you're currently viewing. So contextual advertising technologies typically rely on gathering information from the web page serving this information back to the ad server, then releasing this into the bid stream where advertisers can bid in real time to serve the ads, which is then relayed back to the web page that the user is viewing. And all of this is happening in a matter of milliseconds, and it's virtually unnoticeable to the end user. Since bidding happens in real time, different ads from those who win the auction can be displayed and can also depend on how advertisers decide to target the user viewing the page. So now let's talk about incorporating contextual ads into your overall media strategy. Why is this so important, and why should we be including contextual targeting in our current programmatic campaigns? Well, as we all know, behavioral targeting has long been sort of the default targeting method for many digital advertisers. For over 20 years now, the cookie has made tracking in-browser user behavior an extremely useful tool for targeting digital ads towards the most receptive audiences. But with consumer demand and emerging online privacy regulations, this is changing, meaning it's time to consider other targeting methods, such as contextual advertising. Many web browsers are beginning to actually phase out third-party cookie tracking. So as we all know, Google announced it will be phasing out third-party cookie tracking on Chrome browsers as of 2022. We've had a few date changes with that one, but 2022 is the latest one we've received. This means that there will be far more restrictions in place going forward for more traditional behavioral targeting strategies. Advertisers will have to be able to pivot by embracing new targeting methodologies such as contextual targeting. So to help you get ahead of these upcoming changes and restrictions, we'll explain the benefits of both targeting options, when they should be considered, as well as how they can be leveraged in order to achieve the best campaign performance results. So before delving deeper into the benefits of contextual targeting, let's just briefly review the basics of both strategies. So behavioral targeting aims to ensure that an ad is relevant to the user who is visiting a page, and this is achieved by serving ads based on a user's recent browsing behavior. User data is collected from various sources, and typically to collect this data, you need some sort of identifier, such as a pixel or a cookie. And then once again, the data is then stored in a DMP or a DSP. And this data will include info on clicks, time spent, page visits, etc. The data is then analyzed and used to create an audience that we can target. So on the other hand, as opposed to targeting on recent browsing behavior, contextual advertising targets solely based on the environment in which the ad appears, so on that particular domain. And this is used with algorithms to target based on keywords, relevant site content, and other data. And this way, ads are shown to users based on the recent content that they're actively consuming at that moment in time to remain the most relevant possible. So the key difference here is that behavioral targeting aims to ensure that the ad is relevant to the user, largely ignoring the content next to which that ad appears. So as opposed to factoring in a user's past actions, contextual advertising targets based on the content of the page on which the ad is currently appearing. So in this way, we're essentially targeting users while they're in a particular frame of mind, the frame of mind of consuming that content at that specific time. So for example, if a user's reading a blog about yoga, they could be served up ads for yoga classes, hot yoga mats, etc., as it's likely at that time the user is in the frame of mind to be thinking about these types of health and wellness products and services. So to reiterate, why would we use contextual advertising? Well, contextual advertising is one of the most, if not currently the most, scalable and focused method to display not only highly relevant ads, but also privacy-centric messaging to the end consumer. As brands shift towards finding alternative ways to reach their audience without such a heavy reliance on cookie-based targeting, contextual advertising is really a perfect complementary targeting method. When there are drastic changes in the marketplace, like the elimination of the cookie from advertising environments that we're starting to face today, marketers leveraging contextual advertising strategies will largely be unaffected. So since contextual advertising is independent from cookies, naturally your campaign strategies will remain relatively unscathed. And with that in mind, StackAdapt has rolled out our latest solution to help us get ahead of the curve and this impending change in our industry. So how does contextual advertising actually work? Let's dive into this in a little more detail. So if your DSP offers contextual advertising, the platform is going to essentially do the heavy lifting for you of placing your ad on domains that meet your targeting parameters that you've set. Once you have your creatives all set and ready to go, you can start to set up your custom contextual strategy. Here's an example of how it works. Within the campaign setup stage, you would identify both in-context and out-of-context phrases, and then the algorithm will determine the best ad placements based on the site content. With artificial intelligence, targeting can also be expanded even further to include relevant phrases that are related to the context. Once you've input your context and out of your in context and out of context phrases, you will be able to set your campaign live. The DSP uses an algorithm to analyze the content in each domain to try to match your ad with the most relevant content. The ad is then served only when a placement that matches your parameters that you've set is found. So with all of that said, please allow me to introduce you to Page Context AI. This is StackAdapt's own proprietary contextual advertising solution. Our in-house team of incredible developers has created this software that relays information to our algorithm, which is constantly self-improving and learning based on previous information that it has gathered, meaning it only gets better with time, like a fine wine, right? With Page Context AI, you can build a custom contextual strategy by inputting in-context and out-of-context phrases so that our patent-pending algorithm can determine the best ad placements based on a publisher or site's content. This solution is not only privacy friendly, but it allows you to build relevant ad experiences for your target audience, smart and precise targeting, and it can be achieved at a multi-channel scale. One key difference that I think we should highlight here between our Page Context AI solution versus regular old contextual targeting is the customization that's available. So some of you may be familiar with more traditional IAB content taxonomy for contextual targeting. However, these would offer options such as food and drink or much more broad contextual categories to target for your coffee related campaign. However, with Page Context AI, you're able to input up to 20 in-context phrases, and these can be as niche, custom, and specific as we'd like. So if you're interested in seeing how this works and learning more, please reach out to us and we would love to schedule a personalized demo for you to view it live. So to wrap things up here, it's really important to note, firstly, that the cookie is not entirely phased out yet, and we do not recommend abandoning your behavioral targeted campaigns altogether. Instead, it's important to find the right balance between these strategies so that you can slowly start to introduce contextual tactics into your media mix. Blending both methodologies will make for a well-rounded strategy and help you to gain more confidence in running contextually targeted campaigns. So rather than kind of waiting until legislation makes the use of cookies entirely unavailable, it's best to get ahead of the curve by embracing contextual advertising strategies now. Contextual advertising also moves away from the traditional sort of behavioral approach of making sure ads are relevant to a user. Instead, this approach aims to ensure that the ad is relevant to the content of that page. And as the advertising industry continues to move toward a cookieless world, the role of contextual advertising is only going to continue to grow. And obviously with this comes plenty of new opportunities. So if you'd like to learn more about programmatic in depth, we would certainly recommend taking our advanced programmatic certification course, which is available for free in the StackAdapt Academy. When you register and complete the course, you will also receive a course completion certificate that you can share on your LinkedIn profile as a nice little badge. And if you want to continue to learn more about contextual advertising, we also have an ebook that you can download in the resource panel of this webinar called The Guide to Contextual Advertising. We will also send this via email to everyone after the webinar, along with the recording of today's session. And for those of you here today who are new to StackAdapt, welcome. We are a programmatic DSP with over 40 plus supply partners across native, display, video, connected TV, and audio. We provide the reach you need to have confidence that your campaigns will scale effectively and achieve superior performance. StackAdapt requires no monthly minimums, and we really pride ourselves in providing unparalleled customer support, multi-channel buying options on industry-leading technology, and we also offer both self-serve or managed service models. If you'd like to learn more information on how to get started with us, please reach out at info@stackadapt.com. And now we'll gladly move into the question period.
Thank you so much, Lauren. So just a quick reminder, if you have any questions, please place them in the questions box. And looks like we have some rolling in here. All right, so first question, Lauren. How does contextual targeting work with my retargeting campaigns?
Yes, so you can absolutely incorporate contextual targeting into your retargeting campaigns. We can essentially retarget people who have previously been exposed to your ad in a contextual sense, either via impression or click retargeting.
Perfect. All right, next question. Are there any creative considerations I need to keep in mind with contextual?
Yes and no, but would certainly recommend connecting with your account executive and or creative studio team. They're absolutely the best to consult in this instance. However, it is always important to be mindful of certain things such as too much text in your ads, not having a clear call to action, things like that.
Great. So it looks like we have a few more. How do I make sure that my contextual ads appear in the right places? Does StackAdapt have an optimization option for contextual targeting?
Yes, absolutely. So with Page Context AI, we can include both in context and out of context phrases and keywords, and our powerful machine learning also ensures that we're appearing on pages that are contextually relevant. However, StackAdapt does also have our whitelisted approach to our inventory in general to already ensure that all sites are brand safe.
Okay, another question we have here says, is contextual advertising already available in the platform?
Yes, it is. We absolutely have Page Context AI available as a current targeting strategy. So would definitely recommend reaching out to your account team if you're interested in testing this out.
Great, getting a lot of good questions here. Have another one that says, so we're facing a very niche market. Is contextual advertising an advantage?
Yes, so it certainly can be. One thing that I would recommend is exploring multiple targeting options there because it can depend on how specific or niche, the set of in-context phrases are that you're looking to leverage. But what you're actually able to do is sort of go in and plug those in real time within the targeting section of the campaign editor, and it will automatically compute with a sample list of domains for you. So you're able to take a look, make sure that things look like they're relevant and you want to move forward with that strategy. And if it's not able to scale and there aren't enough web pages available for the campaign to scale based on that set of phrases, it will let you know that we won't be able to scale right away. And then you can explore some other options such as our browsing-based custom audience segments.
Great. Hey, we have a couple more here to go through. So what kinds of ad units can be used with contextual advertising? Are videos an option?
Yes, absolutely. So we can use any ad units with contextual advertising. There's no limitation there.
Great. All right, so last question. Can we see the estimated size of users we can reach with contextual targeting?
Unfortunately not, as we're targeting a list of domains as opposed to, like a group of users, as we typically would with a behavioral audience segment. We aren't necessarily able to see that exact sort of audience size pool since it's a list of domains. But again, you are able to view that sample domain list that the algorithm will compute for you right away when you input those phrases. And then also once the campaign has been launched, you're always able to view all domains within the domain level reporting, and that's accessible to you in real time. It's constantly updated. There's full domain transparency there down to the single impression, and you're able to sort of add or exclude any domains as well, as you'd like.
Great, thank you so much, Lauren. And I think those are all the questions we have for today. And with that, concludes today's webinar. And we'd like to thank you all for attending today. We hope you found it informative and insightful. And as mentioned, you'll receive a follow-up email with the recording. And please don't hesitate to reach out to your StackAdapt representative with any other questions that you might have about contextual advertising. Thanks again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.